Exactly. It sets me up for success. Oh, by the way, and I make my bed in the morning. Because sometimes that's the only victory I have.
Wow.
Sometimes when I come home at night and I walk into my bedroom,
it's the only thing you've done right.
That's the only thing I've done right.
Damn.
And at least I feel good going about that, right? Think about when you come home and you've not made your bed and you walk into your bedroom and you think, and you've had a terrible day. I am such a freaking loser. I can't even make my bed. Isn't that what we tell ourselves sometimes?
Yeah. Mr. Larry Broughton, thank you so much for being on the show.
Oh,
I appreciate it. So, you know what I really admire about you is that you're one of those guys that are really accomplished, but not so well known in the social space.
You like that?
No, it's interesting because like I feel like the whole social media world has now created this bubble where people assume that anything outside of that doesn't exist. It's
that's a great point.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
So you're one of those people who are like, nope, I got a lot under me and I have a lot to say. That's why you're on the show, but not so out there yet.
Yeah, I think, I have a love-hate relationship with social media, to be honest with you. Yeah. I mean, I've got a decent following on Instagram and some of this kind of thing. However...
You are verified.
Oh, yeah, I'm verified. Yeah. Oh, I'm the real deal.
Yeah, which comes to show you that.
Right, but there's a lot of fake gurus out there in this space, and it drives me nuts. And my former spouse was an early adopter in Twitter and in social media space, and I know the false narratives and the facades that are put on with a lot of these people, and all they talk about is their successes and their wins and the piles of cash that's in the front seat of their car and their fancy watch. But it's not reality. It's not what's going on behind the scenes. I think there's organizations that do a really good job of leveraging up their brand and using social media. Exactly.
Oh, absolutely. It's a business for some people.
Of course it is. Of course it is. But then you peel back and their only success is running their quote unquote successful.
Yeah. It's an interesting concept. Yeah,
it is. And studies have shown that there's a lot of depression and anxiety that comes from social media as well. And having 2 teenage kids, I want to be careful about what I'm sending, the messages I'm sending to them as well. Because if anyone who's been through a recovery program, they've heard this before. Don't judge your insides by someone else's outside. And I think that's a tendency for us. We see all this great stuff that's happening through filters and everything else. And so I know all my flaws, but I don't know their flaws.
And I think, it's interesting. Partially, part of the motivation that came from this podcast was the fact that there's so much information out there that some people just get confused.
Of course.
Where do you go? Who do I listen to? Who do I like this person seems legit on the social space.
Yeah.
So is he legit? Is he not? What kind of advice can you give to the people listening, like on how to kind of filter the noise?
Such a great question. Jeez Louise. I wish more people would ask this. Well, I think you have to do some homework. You got to peel back the onion a little bit. This is the great thing about podcasting, right? You got to just find somebody that you trust.
Sure.
If you have, am I allowed to swear on this?
Yeah, go for it. No worries, man.
I'll edit it. I think we all have a built-in BS meter, right? But we sometimes don't. It starts going off, the red flags go up, but we
ignore it.
We ignore it. If you think that somebody's full of BS, they're probably full of BS.
Why do you think we ignore it?
Because they've got 200,000 followers on Instagram.
Social proof.
And a lot of times that's fake social proof.
The amount of people that buy followers by
Exactly. They buy followers or they buy likes. Anyway, so I think if your BS meter is going off, either they're full of crap or they just don't resonate with you. My feeling is this: having been through several ups and down cycles in business, made millions, lost millions, been basically, destitute at times, rebuilding it. If people aren't willing to talk about that, they're probably not somebody you should trust. If you're going to be in business, if you're going to be in life, you have to do life with someone who's willing to share it all, willing to open up their kimono and show you, hey,
their
warts
ups and
and
downs.
all. Yeah. Exactly. Because life is a journey. The journey to success is going to beat the snot out of us sometimes. And so I think that you just got to find somebody who resonates with you. Do your research. Just like if you're going to go buy a new car, do some research on it. And so you have to do the same thing with people that you follow. There are people that I follow that I'm not expecting perfection from anybody, by the way, because none of us are perfect.
Sure.
And so I might follow this person for if I'm looking for that in my life, spirituality, for instance. I might follow this person if I'm looking for tips on leadership. And I would just recommend, don't put all your eggs in one basket.
You know, though, what's interesting, for somebody like you, I feel like you used everything purposefully. So something I've realized in businessmen, a huge reason to their success is because everything they do is purposeful. It's never unplanned, no reason to it. You never wake up in the morning and you're just like, all right, what am I gonna do today? You always know what you want to do. So when you go on social media, I feel like your use of social media is so different than your normal average Joe.
Yeah, you say purposeful, I say intentional.
Intentional.
It's probably
sure.
the same
it's
thing.
The same.
We're probably talking about the same thing. Well, yes, because time is precious.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first started doing social, if you would go to my Instagram feed, you would see the pictures of the food I was eating or what I was doing with my kids that day, and it just got too freaking messy, to be honest with you. But the other thing is, the other downside to social is the whole catfishing and scams that go on. And sadly, that my images are being used in romance scams. When I say my images, I mean, you could just type in Larry Broughton romance scams and you're going to find, I'm on a bunch of different websites where these scammers from Ghana, Nigeria, Russia are pretending that they're me, either using my name or someone else's name and trying to get money, get money from unsuspecting women, right? And so because of that, I had to kind of protect myself and protect my family. So the only thing I put out through social media now are things that are branded, inspiring, motivational, uplifting, or educational, but it's got my brand on it. Now you might find it through an Instagram story or something like that. So I am very intentional about it. And I recognize that when you're growing a company, my team members are watching me.
Yeah, you're a leader.
I've got people all over the country that are part of our organization, and they may not have daily contact with me, but they can go to my social media feed and say, okay, what's Larry talking about today when it comes to building elite teams, or about dealing with change, or leading an organization, and they can still get nuggets of wisdom through my experience through social media. So that's how I got very intentional about using social media.
There's a lot of pros and cons to social media. I think one of the pros is the fact that everybody can have their own DNA. That's the beauty. Because the way I use social media is I actually, since I'm from a younger generation, I set out and I let people know about the failures that I go through. It's a very interesting perspective because I actually get DMs all the time where people are like, I've never seen anyone do this. Like I show the world through my stories. I get on IG, let's say like I failed the client meeting or something went bad or something happened. I get on Instagram and I just rant. I'm like, hey guys, sure, everyone's out there talking about how they're driving Lambos, but I'm definitely not. This is what's happening today.
Dude, that's why I like you. That's why we're even sitting here, because when we started, when you reached out and said, hey, let's get together, I don't go on all these podcasts.
Sure.
I'm not going to waste my time. My time is too precious.
Yeah.
But when I saw that there was a level of authenticity to what you guys are doing, and it kind of aligns with what I'm doing, I said, sure, why not? Let's see if we can help each other out. Of course, because when you said that they can build their own DNA, it takes courage to do that, though. It takes guts to do
because
that.
People assume that everyone else is out there to get them. That's what I've realized. Like people don't expose their true selves because they're worried that they're going to get judged. When what's funny is that your guy across the street is worried about the same thing. That was the huge breakthrough that I had mentally over social media. I was like, wait, the guy that's watching me is probably worried that I'm thinking weird about them. So it's like, it's this concept that's...
Well, it's very funny. For years, that was the big mistake I made. I never exposed the real me, the real suffering that was going on, the real fears that I had. But like in any relationship, think about a romantic relationship.
Yeah.
When you first start dating someone, you do the little kabuki dance, don't want to offend them, want to make sure that they still like me. But as soon as someone gets real, that gives you permission to be real.
Sure.
And they say, finally, let's take the mask off. Let's really see if we like each other. And so I think that's one of the problems that we have with social media is people are so used to living behind this mask. It is tiring. It's absolutely tiring to do that. Yes. So when they see someone who gets real, they say, that's a breath of fresh air. And so I do think that the pendulum is swinging back where the raw, the real is attractive.
Yes, slowly. It's going to slowly. I think entrepreneurship first blew up. In your time, I'm sure running a business was just a thing you did. It wasn't really like a cool thing like today.
I've seen that. Listen, I tell this to my son right now, who is 15, and he's kind of he'd be what you would consider a computer geek or nerd, right? I mean, he's a great guy. He's into leadership and all that kind of stuff. But I said, listen, it's the nerds that are getting the women and they're getting the attention, and it's entrepreneurs who are the rock stars of today, right? Yeah. Those are it's celebrities.
They are. It's
the celebrities of today. When I was your age, it wasn't. You didn't have that. Like Elon Musk would not have the rock star status 30 years ago.
I think it's people like that actually changed it, though.
Yeah,
it's innovators like Elon, Bezos that genuinely created something that's just insane.
And the timing of social media, who knows? If we would have had the social media back then with Jack Welch, who knows?
Probably, right? I think social media has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, of course. But I think that the internet obviously and social media has kind of leveled the playing field. But my hope is that these fraudsters, the fakes, get weeded out pretty quickly. This is why I think having a verified account helps.
It's huge. Yeah.
Because they can say, okay, so at least someone has vetted this person. I could start an Instagram account today and in 3 days have several 100,000 followers that I buy.
Out of nowhere. Or like in less than an hour, actually. You can.
I suppose you know better than I do, I guess, because this is your space.
Yeah.
But I know that people are doing that. But how real is that? How authentic is that? I want to live, like, if I have a victory, I want to know that victory is real. Fake victories mean nothing to me. I continue going around questioning myself
I think people have this idea that social proof is such a necessity that they'll go out there and do anything to get it.
But it's not real proof, though. At some point, it's going to fall apart.
I know. And it's this concept because I've seen a lot, and I don't want to throw out names. I'm sure you know individuals too that they're all of a sudden they were like at 50,000 followers one day, and now they're at like 700,000. You're just like, what happened?
Unless there was something. Now, it has happened. Like I've seen a several thousand follower bump in a day, but it's after coming off a show on MSNBC or CNN or Travel Channel.
Something legit. Something with legit PR, yeah.
If there's something like that happening, you can get those big bumps. I don't know about 700,000 bump, but I would imagine that you can. But if like out of nowhere, it's just somebody who's sitting in there, running their $200,000 business and they get that jump, it's probably not legit.
Yeah.
It's just not authentic.
They're not willing to put in the work, the effort for it, because it's a lot of work.
Exactly. Isn't that the problem, though, with entrepreneurship? It's hard.
It's hard work.
It's hard work. And if we can start working a little bit smarter and be willing to work hard, I believe, to have a strong social media following, it's a full-time job.
It is.
And either you better have a team, either you better have the time to do it, but if you're having the time to do it, that better be your business.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to run a business and build your social platform at the same time, it's hard to do. And so either you better be having somebody in your team or be willing to outsource it to somebody who knows what they're doing, who
can take care of it for you,
like you guys. But you got to make sure that you guys share the same core values.
Mm-hmm.
I did outsource our social for a long time. I had a social media manager. She ran her own company and she did a great job. But we also hired some outside folks, and they were doing some pretty they used to call it, I don't know if they still call it, black hat stuff. Mm-hmm. And when I found that out, I said, stop, no. Do you understand, like, my brand is about integrity.
It's my face on the line here.
Exactly. Here's a guy who won the National Business Leader of Integrity Award, and we're doing this kind of stuff. It doesn't compute, dude. You're fired. But again, that takes guts, because the easy thing would have been to let them go. Like on the wall over here in our office, there's a saying that says, choose the hard right over the easy wrong. The hard right is to call somebody on their crap and say, no, we're not going to do that. The easy thing would have been let it ride. Oh, wow, I saw 3,000,
likes,
or whatever, followers or boost today. How did that really happen, though?
Yeah, what went down?
So that's the easy wrong. The hard right is saying, okay, we're going to take it slow and easy and steady and do it the right way.
And the slow and easy steady takes a long time. I think building a social brand is actually harder than building an actual business.
I think, you're probably right on that, because it comes down to reputation and connectivity, right? Yeah. You've got to actually connect with people. Because I do see, like, I'll go do a speech, for instance. Let's say that there's 500 people where I do a keynote speech. I may do a giveaway, right? Hey, if you want this electronic version of this book, I'll use like lead digits or something like that, and they'll send me a little text, and I'll see a big bump that day, and then over time they start dropping them off, right? Because they realize, listen, I connected with him on stage, but I don't need to hear from him more as frequently, right? But the people that hang on, those are the people who really are digging my stuff. And I really just stopped looking at the number of likes about a year ago, because it was starting to drive, and my Melissa, who my assistant, I was driving her nuts with this. It's like, how come we're not getting so many likes? There's many likes on this or that one, and it was like killing me, right? And I said, you know what? There are a lot of people who are seeing it, but they're not liking it. Big deal, Is engagement important? Being able to measure the engagement? Of course it's important. But my value, my personal worth does not need to be tied to the number of likes.
And I think that's a beautiful point that you bring up, because so many people live their life as if it's about how many likes they get on each photo. Gary Vaynerchuk, right? Yeah, he talks about this all the time. All the time. I think it's pretty much like every single video he makes. He's just like, you guys need to stop caring. But how many likes you get and how many, like, for example, take me. I post content on the daily. Sometimes I get, 5, 10, 15, 100, 1,000, whatever. I don't care. I don't check those, because I'm just my why is bigger than this micro 5, 10 likes that I may or may not get. You know what I'm saying? Like, in 10 years, what kind of impact am I going to make? Or you know what? Fuck the impact, all right? Think about this. Imagine in 20, 30 years, your kids can watch your life in front of you.
That's exactly what
That's awesome.
Because that stuff does not go away, right?
Yeah, that's there forever.
And I realized, it's such a great point, both my kids follow me on social media. And it's interesting when I see that they have watched something, an Instagram story, or they've
and I bet they walk around and talk about you all the time, like, hey, look what he does.
I don't know about that. But
I'm sure. I mean, listen, I thought the same thing with my family, but they people talk.
Yeah, I know.
People talk.
I'm teasing. There's a fine line between them being proud of me and me totally embarrassing them, right? I'm a 50-something-year-old dad, of course.
Hey, you're up to a lot of good things. Yeah.
Well, I'm trying, and I think that, listen, we're living in the best times in the history of the world right now.
Yeah, right now, yeah.
I mean, how many people, at least in North America, most people's lives are better today than their grandparents were. I don't want to be living back then where, like, I remember my grandparents telling stories about them having to shovel coal into their stove to heat the house. I don't have to do that.
You just click a button.
Yeah,
from your phone.
Right, exactly. Or, anyway, there's tons of stories like that, right? I remember my grandparents talking about they used to hunt rattlesnakes because there's so many rattlesnakes where they lived. I don't have to do that, right? Most people in the U.S., Canada, Mexico don't have to. Most of us are better off than our grandparents were, or their grandparents were. And social media and the internet obviously is help that. We have access to information. We have access. Listen, now because of social media, anyone can start a business. Anybody at any time. Teenagers can start a business
from your fingertips.
It's freaking awesome.
You can start something from thin air.
Well, that's the funny thing, though. I mean, I hear some of my contemporaries, when I say contemporaries, like in this capacity, that are about my same age, and they start bad-mouthing millennials or Gen Zs or whatever it is about, and you name it, right? There's always stereotypes.
They're not, like, they don't have enough grit. That's what I've heard.
Don't have enough grit. They're looking for things to be handed to them.
They're wussies. They're
wussies. All right, so yeah, and guess what? The greatest generation, my father used to badmouth us.
It's a cycle that'll never end.
It always has. But also look at the great things that are being created by these folks.
I think
I am really optimistic about our future.
100%.
I really am. Are there things that we ought to be learning from the people who've been down the path before us? Of course, but the great thing is they can be learned. And I'm very optimistic. Like I said, I've got this love-hate relationship with social media and with all things internet. But for the most part, I think it's been a definite net gain, net good over a net negative or detriment to society.
I think
connectivity, for crying out loud.
Oh yeah, that's huge. That's a huge. Listen, I think nothing has changed about humans since day one. I think the biggest innovators in the world have realized that, and that's why they were able to innovate. Because if you look at any sort of industry, whether it's your industry or the transportation industry, it's kind of been the same since the beginning of Stone Ages. The only difference is it just got better. It's not like something just boop out of nowhere. And every time it got better and better, that generation said, "Oh man, this sucks. I can't believe." So it's always the same constant repetition. It comes down to perception at the end of the day, honestly.
I think that you're right on that. My sense is that people are longing, like a soul longing, hurting for community and sense of connectedness, right? And that is what I believe social media is doing, and gaming and those kind of things, right?
The esports world is something else.
What's that?
The esports world.
Any of that stuff, right?
Yeah.
When my son several years ago was really getting into gaming and that kind of thing, I was very fearful that he was like not building relationships with his friends and going out and playing. So I limit the amount of time that he has on the computer. But you know what brings me some real joy? When I hear him in his room and he's laughing his head off when he's gaming with his friends. And I can hear, because he's got the speakers going, I can hear his friends saying things, and they're playing. They are interacting socially. He's getting social engagement. He's at school during the day. He's doing the sports and that kind of thing. But I couldn't do that when I was a kid, you know? And so in some ways, he's getting almost more socialization than I was getting. And so your point about perspective is, I think it's about, we just need to switch our perspective.
It's all it is. In anything in life, it's perception.
Yeah.
It's perspective.
Yeah.
You can either view technology as the end of things and the thing that's going to end the world, like, this AI taking over concept, or you can look at it as, hey, we're innovating so much to a point where humans are now have access to any sort of information within your fingertips. Think about that.
Well, listen, I think there's been science fiction for a long, long time, but we do seem to be at the cusp, right, where we are going to be blending. We're currently blending humans and technology. It is going to really cross over, right? And this AI humanoid kind of whatever we're going to be creating here, and frankly, it's probably being created in China right now.
It's probably already made. Somewhere. I have no idea.
I'd lay dollars to donuts that they're working on it right now, right? That is an interesting thing to be thinking about, right?
It is. It's a whole other topic to get into.
Yeah. But anyway, so the social, I think, is it's pretty powerful when used appropriately. But I would just really advise people, don't get seduced by the people who aren't willing to get real, And if you're trying to find a guru that's out there, just do a little bit of research on them, because there are a lot of gurus who are selling sacks of crap, who've never built a real business beyond building their social platform and getting people to subscribe and buy their course.
But it's interesting? A part of me, a little small part of me, just sits there sometimes and laughs, because I'm just like, they're scammers, but they built a business.
They built a business, no doubt.
You know what I mean?
But know what you're getting into.
That's
what I'm saying.
Sure.
Buyer beware.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. And if that's what they truly are saying, say, hey, I built my platform to 1 million and I can show you how to do it too, that's different than saying I can teach you entrepreneurship by buying my program because I have 1 million followers. Completely different. Building a bricks and mortar business is completely different than building a $1 million follower base on Instagram.
That's like, I understand. Listen, integrity, for everybody that's watching right now, integrity, all this, like, I understand this is the wrong way to do it. It's just I guess the part of me that sometimes, sits there and thinks about all these innovations that is happening around me. I start laughing because I'm like, they built a 7-figure business out of it, Yeah.
And for them.
Yeah.
I'm not taking anything from it. Listen, there's a guy that I think does a great job. And he does show the cars, and he does show the Lambos, and he does show all the houses and all that kind of stuff. But he's also built real businesses too. So there are guys like that. But I know him. He's interviewed me. I've been on his show. We've talked. We've gone deep. So I know that he's the real deal. I'm just saying there are some people who are now 100%. Modeling that.
I agree.
The facade, you pull the curtain back, and there's nothing there. That's all I'm saying. Just be careful on who you choose to
I
follow.
live my life based on what you just said, because our vision as a company is to make sure that we connect the dots with the real moguls in the world.
Yeah.
That's the whole reason why we call it Mogul Insider.
Yeah.
Because I want to bring on the real deal people who know what they're doing to talk about the real stuff.
Yeah.
And not just, oh, hey, look at me, I have 1 million followers kind of deal. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I think the moguls that are changing the world are those who aren't just focused on, I don't know, I guess they build their company and they look beyond the bottom line. They're not just looking at what's the balance sheet look like. Those folks, those moguls, I love that word too, and I use it often. They're building great people, right? If you want to do great things, you got to be a great person. If you want to build a great organization, you have to have great people. And when you realize, I think I've shared this with you guys before when you're here a couple of weeks ago, is that when I went to Stanford's executive program, we had a professor who said, listen, when you're building an organization, you're building a business, and a lot of you are trying to build an empire, you need to be a problem solver. If you're a leader, you need to be a problem solver. And in business, all problems fall under these 4 categories: people, product, process, and profit, the 4 Ps. Okay, listeners, viewers, if you're running a business, can you think of your business, or is there any problem you're having that's not a people, product, process, or profit problem? Probably not.
Probably not. Yeah, okay. I'm trying to think.
Okay, think about it.
Yeah.
So then I started doing my coaching and mentoring and growing my businesses. And when I started connecting the dots, I went back and thought, well, gosh, okay, I got this product problem. I've got this profit problem. I've got this process problem. And then I started thinking, all right, how am I going to fix these? I went back to my days in Special Forces when everything was built around strengths. You know what you got if you got a product, process, or profit problem? You got a people problem. At the end of the day, all problems in business are people problems.
People problems.
So you better have, if you're a mogul, you're trying to build an empire, you better have not only a decent IQ, just like can you navigate society, you better have a really high EQ. Do you know how to bring out the best in people? Can you see potential in people that they can't even see in themselves? You know, can you build a team by bringing people together who might have different agendas, but they buy into this mission because they believe in it, right? If you can do those things, that's how you change the world, right? And so you need to be really good with people. And if you're one of those folks, it doesn't mean that if you're an entrepreneur and you're not great with people, that you're not going to do great things. You better be able to bring someone into the organization who can, right? Who understands people. But at the end of the day, it's all about people.
Because sometimes, I'm sure you've had this as a leader. I mean, I've had this where I would bring someone on to the team, not necessarily, I've actually hired someone before, not necessarily based off of their experience, but based off of something I saw in them. I was like,
that's the right way to do it.
Like you may not see it in yourself, but I see it, and that's why I want to bring you on. And I've actually had discussions with people where sometimes they're like, wait, why did you choose me? Why are we here?
That's so good. So listen, we were talking about my book Victory earlier before the show started. That some of your folks are reading it and they're liking it. Well, one of the things I talk about in there is this exact topic. In our organization, yes, do we go through the formal interview process? Of course we do. Do we look at resumes? Of course we do. But experience is probably number 8 on the list when we're trying to bring people into the organization. The top 3 things are this: motivation, integrity, and capacity.
Motivation, integrity, and capacity.
We want people to want to be here.
Okay.
We want people who look at life like, I get to get up in the morning. I get to go in and make a difference today. I get to go to work and be on this team today.
Yeah.
Those are the people that I want, right? Next thing is integrity. Hopefully that's self-explanatory.
Sure.
But motivation without integrity is dangerous. Motivation without integrity is dangerous. You can be highly motivated, but you lack integrity, and that's what gets you in trouble.
100%.
Right?
Yep.
And then capacity. Most of us will get into business. We want to grow the business, right? And if I'm not hiring somebody who has the capacity to grow with us, then it's going to stagnate. It's going to prohibit us from growing, right? So the ideal is motivation, integrity, and capacity to grow, so that I don't have this revolving door of new team members coming in. Because the intellectual DNA or institutional DNA from someone who's been in an organization for several years is powerful. So when you have those types of people, once they've been around the organization for a while, I call them the wise sages of the organization. If you can build an organization that's full of wise sages and then young Turks, the new blood who brings in new ideas, those are the organizations, those are the leaders that build empires.
That's the mixture right there.
Yeah.
I think I don't know if you'd agree with me on, I think the one thing millennials don't have is integrity. Not all of them. Not all of them. I've met some who are very integral. But what I've come to realize is the younger generation, due to the fact that they get everything like that, they don't feel the need to be integral with, let's say, simple things like time. You know, like be on time. You know, they're either 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes late. It's whatever, not a big deal. You know, they don't think of that as a big deal. When it's like, for me, it's like, no, I have to be 10 minutes early.
And you guys always have been, by the way. Every time you guys have shown up here, that's good. Well, you're respectful of other people's time and you value other people's time.
100%. And I see that. I see that, especially in business, because I've worked with younger people who just, I feel like small things, like it's not the bigger things, it's the small things, like being on time, showing up prepared, or something like, you know, where they think they can just like wing stuff, you know, and I'm like,
well, I have this conversation with my kids all the time. And it's interesting that you should say that about the small things, but you know, there's a saying, I think it's, I forget where I've heard it the first time, but if I can't trust you with the small things, I can't trust you with the big things.
I agree.
Right?
Yes.
And so those are just seeds, or there's just kind of a little sneak peek into someone's character. If I can't trust you with the small things, right? I've got at my former company, we had hired a new president at one point, and he was very tricky in what he would do to kind of build trust with people. And I think it was very clever the way he did it. He'd come in and say, hey, I got to go get my car out of the garage, and I need $1 to tip the valet attendant. Can I borrow $1 from you? Right? You think, well, of course, here's $1. You need to pay me back, right?
Yeah.
He said, I'll pay you back tomorrow. And sure as shit, you got that $1 back the next day.
Yeah.
Why?
He was trying to show you that
you can trust me.
You can trust me, yeah.
Just on a really
even the small things,
little risk, right? I think it's very clever, right?
That's a smart tactic.
I started seeing a little pattern here, you know, with him, and I thought that's very clever, right? If I can't trust you with the small stuff, I can't trust you with the big stuff. So I thought that was clever, and it's interesting that you bring that up. But you know, I have contemporaries that I don't trust either, because I know that they lack integrity. So I don't know that it's a millennial thing.
Maybe because I'm on the younger side, that's what I noticed. That's what I focus. Yeah,
I think it's a human thing.
It's just a natural. Okay, yeah.
Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, it's just, I guess maybe because my group is more in the younger gen, so I've noticed it, at least from like people my age. You know,
what I've seen with millennials is that there's a lack of there's a lack of trust with boomers and people that are about my age. And I think that could be the Achilles heel, that they think I'm smarter,
I'm better
than they are.
Nah, that's a stupid thing that I hear all the time.
That's a problem.
I'm like, you're, you know, in your 50s, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm 22.
Yeah.
So do the math. Yeah. You know, no matter how much I've learned, I'm pretty positive you've learned more.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like, that's how I look at it. And it's like, I think another problem that millennials may face is they lie to themselves a lot. They tell themselves that, you know, yeah, I'm smarter, or everything will be fine. Or like, let's say, you know, if they catch themselves doing something, they let themselves slide. Yeah. They're like, it's okay, it's not a big deal. I'm like,
that's a slippery slope, my friend.
A slippery slope that's going to get you nowhere fast.
Yeah, there's a saying that I use a lot, is that reality is your friend. And if you can't see reality, you need to have people who are bolder and brighter around you that are going to hold up the mirror and say, hey, snap out of it. You're heading for a cliff if you're not really careful here. When we accept reality, or at least recognize, maybe not accept reality, but recognize reality, we can make course corrections in our lives and in our relationships and in our ways to improve, to actually get better. But if we live in fantasy land, that everything is going to be sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows, and that there's, you know, the bad decisions I'm making are not going to come back and haunt me, we're going to drive our life right off a cliff. And
I think that's why these social media quote unquote gurus have become so popular, because they're showing off a life that people wish they have.
Yeah.
So they follow them because they're like, oh, at least I can see it from someone else's lens.
Yeah.
When it's like, that guy is living pretty depressed, you know?
Yeah, that's right.
I've actually I have a lot of social media influencer friends. Yeah. And you know what's funny? Those guys don't have friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
They have 1 million followers, but they hit me up on a Saturday because they got nothing to do.
It's very interesting. You know, there was a woman, I forget her name now, and I need to go back. I've tried to bring her into conversations a couple times. She was a very high-profile Instagram model. And she had millions of followers, and it looked like her life was all sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows. And then she went public and said, I am miserable. I have considered suicide. That one shot that you saw me that I posted on Instagram took 9 hours to do.
Jesus.
I don't, like you said, I don't have friends. I am totally obsessed with this. I'm driven by the likes and the comments that I get. And this little thing right here took me 50 tries to do it. And you're right, it's very sad when that's what you build your life around. This is why I went back earlier. We are longing, we have this deep, deep longing to be connected, to be accepted, to be approved, to be loved, which is why this romance scam thing is working, right? Because, you know, someone is showing, these scammers are showing these women a little bit of attention that they're not getting in the real world, right? So I guess if I would say, hey, exercise caution when it comes to social media, that should not be the limit of your life. You must also have personal, deep relationships with people as well. You know, the physical touch, the eye contact, breaking bread together. There's something intimate when we have a meal with somebody.
100%.
You know? And that's really what we're looking for. So social media can get you a long way down the field on building a brand, but you also have to have the real personal connections.
I think you said something really cool, which I believe if people were to follow would fix everything, which is just keep it real.
Yeah.
Keep it real with yourself.
Yeah, right.
Like if you keep it real with yourself, when you look at the social media guy, you're like, oh, his life's not that great. And if you keep it real with yourself, you'll realize that a lot of things, I think that's like the big domino that if you just tip over, everything else will.
But that takes guts. It takes courage to face yourself in the mirror. Having not done that for years and lived behind a mask for years, at the end of the day, I wasn't courageous enough to face it though. Yeah. And I think that courage changes everything.
Sure.
Courage, if your listeners would take one thing away from it, be courageous. Reality is your friend. And let's do the hard work.
Sure.
People are afraid to work hard nowadays. Not nowadays. People are always afraid to work hard. But the payoff is huge. The payoff is so huge. That's what I try to tell people all the time is just be willing to grind it out. I am not the smartest guy. I don't have the biggest bank account. I don't have the biggest network. But if you put me against just about anybody, I'm not going to quit.
Sure.
I'm going to be hanging on by my fingernails.
Outwork everyone.
You know? Exactly. I'm going to out-hustle, outwork, be more tenacious than anybody around me. And that's kind of how I've continued to survive. And hopefully that people find that attractive and they want to come and join the team.
You know, it's interesting you say that because I've been thinking a lot about this recently, which is, I want to get your opinion on this. What do you think, what's the key differentiator between somebody like Jeff Bezos and somebody like your local business owner? Well, why did Bezos get to his level and why did the local business owner stay there?
Well, one thing is desire. I know a lot of local business owners who are very happy with that, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's one of the problems that we have in society, again, is comparing ourselves to other people or judging other people by, hey, my desire is to grow an empire, and they just want this one ice cream shop. Why are they thinking so small? Because that's
what they want, yeah.
Their quality of life, the time with their family is more important. Because if you want to grow an organization like Jeff Bezos has grown, Amazon,
you're not going to have a
Exactly. Ask him how many hours he puts in. Are you willing to do that? Most people aren't willing to do that. Yeah. It's painful. Yeah. So Jeff Bezos, this is what he chose to do. I met him once years ago, and interesting dude, right? But he was willing to eat crap, is the way Gary Vee says. He says eat shit, right? Are you willing to eat the shit? Well, he was willing to eat the shit. He was willing to work 24-hour days sometimes if that's what it took. Right?
Sure.
Most people, it gets 5 o'clock and they're willing, I'm done.
You're out.
You know? Exactly, I'm out. Or what? I've got plans this weekend.
Or it's not necessarily even like the 5 o'clock thing. It's like taking on bigger projects, bigger financial risks. That's a huge thing too.
Not being afraid to fail. How many failures has Bezos and Amazon had over the years? Tons. And they're willing to innovate, right? A lot of the small business owners, one thing I think it's desire. They're happy with that. But most of us are so afraid to fail that we are always going to stay small.
They don't take the shot.
They don't take their shot is a good way to put it. Innovation, change does not happen without failures. We wouldn't have electric lights. We wouldn't have any of this technology that we have if someone hadn't been willing
Edison to fail. Had 1,000 tries.
That's what he says.
And he didn't say it was failures. He called them 1,000. He said like 999 different ways that didn't work. That's
right. To try again, to improve, right? And that's
I think I remember like
been that way.
I think one of his like 900th try, he actually created something separate that we don't even know about. I think it's used in like in some sort of I don't remember. I don't want to quote anything out of like I'm not trying to but
I get the point though. Every innovation that we've had has come from failures, and the more you innovate, the more you try, you realize, hey, this might not work for this particular project, but maybe I can spin this off and do something else with it.
And that's happens over Amazon for you. He started as a bookstore.
Right.
Think about it.
I know.
And now he's
largest retailer ever.
Taking over the world.
Yeah, exactly.
So, we're coming, unfortunately, close to the time. This conversation
was
so well. So I want to end it off with this. So speaking of moguls and all these big players, I want to talk a little bit about you.
Okay.
What are the top 3 values that you keep yourself accountable to on a daily basis? Like if you have something that you can share with the audience.
Yeah. So if I can use values or character traits, is okay. So integrity is really key to me. Loyalty is really important. It's hard to build a team if you can't get people to be loyal to you or believe in the mission. Tenacity, which is more of a trait, I guess, is really valuable. I said this on a podcast recently that kind of has resonated with people, so maybe your listeners will like this, that tenacity eats talent for lunch. There are a lot of really highly talented people out there that are living great lives of mediocrity because when the going got tough, they just quit. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of folks who are really super tenacious, like the folks like Jeff Bezos, for instance. We're talking about him, Elon Musk. I mean, Elon Musk, genius, billionaire, but when he was trying to get the Model S out, he was sleeping in the factory, factory floor or wherever, on desk or whatever. He was willing to be tenacious to make sure it got done. Most of us aren't willing to do that. So be really tenacious. So I guess integrity, loyalty, tenacity are pretty
You have to have some sort of crazy side of you.
Well, you do. I think it's funny. I had crazy. Now
I sometimes think psychopathic, even because it's like.
Yeah. So I have a mentor who told me years ago that Larry, you are an egomaniac with an inferiority complex. That was like a kick in the gut when he first said it, and he said, "All right, let me explain. You're an egomaniac in that somebody says you can't do something.
You're gonna prove them wrong.
You're gonna prove them wrong.
Yeah.
Against all odds.
Just because.
You believe you can do stuff that other people don't think you can.
Yes.
The inferiority complex is you're always looking over your shoulder, thinking you don't measure up, thinking that someone's out to get you, and there's a sense of paranoia about it. That if I'm not getting up and doing this, somebody else is, or someone else is looking. Whatever. There is a little bit of sense of paranoia about you, and so after he said that, I started looking at all these high achievers that I was meeting, and we started talking about it. And I think that is just a general trait among high achievers and innovators and entrepreneurs.
100%.
We're egomaniacs with inferiority complexes, thinking that someone's they're after us, they're chasing us.
I had a mentor of mine told me that there's also a level of ignorance in what we do. Because we talk big, we speak so big in these visions and.
Oh, listen, if there wasn't a sense of ignorance is bliss, if we really did accept reality, I know I'm kind of flying in the face of reality is your friend thing, right? But if we didn't live in the dream world, there's probably a lot of things that we wouldn't do.
Yep, I agree 100%.
Yeah,
it's you hit it spot on. I've so far everyone I've interviewed, so everyone I've spoken to, very similar things.
Is that right?
Yeah, and what's interesting, as you said, Elon Musk sleeping on the floor, creating a Tesla. You know, that sounds like fun to me.
Yeah, right.
Like to me, that sounds like I want to do that.
Well, it would be very interesting. I want to write a book. I want to do research on personal relationships that these folks have had. Right? I burned through a marriage, and because. A bunch of reasons why we burned through it, but one of the things was I don't think that she understood the journey that she was about to go on with an entrepreneur.
Yes.
You know, and you better make sure that the person, your love interest, knows what's going to be going on. You might make millions one year and you might make nothing the next year. There might be times when it's 50-hour work week, and there might be times where it's, I don't see you for a couple of days because this project is coming down the pike. There are some people who need to have their significant other or their spouse work the traditional Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 kind of gig. But if you're not willing to sign up for that, exercise caution.
I believe in being very direct. Listen, if you don't like me, all right, this is what I have to offer. You know what I mean? Like, I am not the thing is, you mean about relationships. Yeah, romantic relationships. Sure. Like, if I meet someone, I'm gonna tell them straight up, okay, this is me. Yeah. I'm crazy. I'm highly motivated, and I will do anything it takes to get my business to the level I want to get to, even if that means sacrificing time with you.
I had a similar conversation with somebody recently. I said, listen, I am undateable for the following reasons. And I agree. Most people don't have that direct early on conversation with somebody. And it's sad because there are a lot of great people out there that I'd love to be building relationships with. But the season that I'm in my life right now with kids and everything else, growing the company and launching this fund and everything else that's going on, it's hard to be dateable and growing your business at the same time. It's not to say that it can't be done.
It's totally doable, but the person on the other side needs to understand that. And I think the person on the other side too has to kind of be similar to you. Where, like, since you're out of the house, maybe she does something on her own. She has a project, she starts something. So it's not really a big deal, It's like, come home, we just talk about. The thing is, he called me out on this. Right, one of my guys, he told me, he's like, Adam, you need to learn to socialize. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, all you talk about is business. And I'm like, I don't know how to talk about anything else, to be honest. I don't really. It's like when people talk about just regular life things, I'm just like sitting there quiet.
That is your business. I mean, that is your life. and the interesting thing is, there's somebody recently that I've been talking to, and she gets that, right? And she can talk about business, and she can talk about a lot of very interesting things as well. But it's interesting. I think the more that we know ourselves, the easier it is to cut ties with people in our lives that don't match our core values or our strengths or whatever. And I don't want to I don't want this to sound heartless, but I really encourage everybody to take the Kolbe A Index, the Clifton Strength Finders, and maybe a couple other assessments. But one is, I think, particularly if you're going to a love relationship, there's a book called The Five Love Languages.
Yes.
And so if your significant other, if you don't understand what their love languages are, and they don't understand what your love languages are, there's going to be problems.
Good luck. Yeah,
exactly. Good luck. And so I think that, like, for instance, let's say that it's going to be very difficult if I'm putting in 80-hour work weeks and my love interest, number one love language is quality time. That's going to be really hard to do. If I'm working 80 hours, how am I going to give that person
it's impossible
quality time, right? Something's got to give in there. But if it's words of affirmation or it's gifts, I can swing that probably, right? So I would just really encourage people, whether you're building a team, just trying to get the right people in your life, Kolbe A Index, Clifton Strengths Finder, and the five love languages.
And how does someone like you turn off? Like, do you ever stop? Just stop.
What?
Like, stop. Do you get home? Do you get home and you're just like, I'm done. I can't. I haven't figured it out yet. So if you have any advice, I would really appreciate it.
I have friends who say, hey, dude,
you need to stop.
Like last night was a good example where I just had a really long day, and a friend of mine said, hey, come down to Laguna. Let's have a couple of drinks with some friends. And so I did. And it was like, oh my gosh, I actually needed this. But guess what 60% of the conversation was all night?
Work.
Business. And it was awesome.
You loved it, yeah.
We laughed and we talked about the stupid mistakes I've made or that they've made, and I walked away feeling fulfilled, right? Because, again, I was getting the community, I was getting the laughter,
and the social
stuff, and walked away with a couple of really decent ideas. And I went back and spoke to Melissa this morning. Hey, I got this idea last night. Let's figure out how to implement it. So even in a social gathering, I was learning from it. What I would encourage you to do as a younger empire builder is look for the warning signs. When you start to burn out, you can't wait until you burn out to actually take time off. You can't. It's too late because you've damaged too many people. Because you probably got short, grumpy, said things you shouldn't have said, made some bad decisions. So you got to find some way to recharge. So for me, it might go to the shooting range or go throw axes or go on a hike with my son or spend time with my dog. Every day, I'm doing something like that just to get a little bit of a recharge. right? But turning off, I don't know what that means. My brain is always
it's always
going.
working. It's always working. Yeah.
I'll be walking down the street and I'll see an empty retail store. I say, oh, that'd be a great place for whatever. And all of a sudden I'm starting to run, mathematical equations like price per square foot. I'll go to the Honda Center to watch a hockey game and I'm figuring out, okay, how much have they taken? Let's see, there's 1,000 empty seats every night. Doing the math and concessions.
Like you run their business or something, yeah.
That's the way my brain works.
That's how you are, yeah.
And
but I think that's the beauty. I think that's what we love so much about entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Is the fact that idea, implement, boom, reality.
So I think one way I don't know if you can turn off or stop, but I would say combine it. One of the things that came out of my little social interaction last night was a friend of mine who is having a birthday cruise next August. And who's going to be on the birthday cruise? People that you turn on the TV and see entrepreneurs that you would know on TV, and entertainers are going to be on this cruise. It's a private cruise that I've been invited to go to. It's going to be a business cruise. I mean, it's a birthday cruise, but there's going to be business happening there as well. So I'm combining the social with the business at the same time, and I get away from the office. And I'm going to come back with energized and relaxed and full of a bucket full of ideas, right? So stopping, I don't know.
It never happens.
I don't know. Maybe combining it with
yeah, because that's what I naturally do as I combine it. Yeah, but I've never been able to just stop. And I think if I stop, I end up losing my...
Here's what you do. All right, so I think I get where we're going on this. Every morning I do a morning routine, okay? And it's generally between 7 minutes and 25 minutes. I do meditate.
Okay.
All right? I do affirmations. Some people might call them prayers, whatever it is, right? So every morning before I check social media, before I check email, before I even brush my teeth, I make my morning smoothie, green drink, and I go through prayers, meditations, positive thinkings about the day. I don't think about balance sheets. I don't think about how full were our hotels last night. I don't think about overtime. I don't think of any of that kind of stuff. But the positive mantras and readings that I do always have a positive impact on my business. Mm-hmm. And part of the morning mantra that I do is I promise myself that I'm going to be looking for the little miracles throughout the day. I promise myself that I'm going to help somebody some way that day, whether it's holding the door for somebody at Starbucks or helping somebody put their luggage in the overhead compartment on a plane. I promise myself that I'm going to be doing that. Again, if you want to do great things, you have to be a great person. So that is one time I guess I stop and get intentional about how is my day going to go. I find that when I do that,
it sets you up.
Exactly. It sets me up for success. Oh, by the way, and I make my bed in the morning. Because sometimes that's the only victory I have.
Wow.
Sometimes when I come home at night and I walk into my bedroom,
it's the only thing you've done right.
That's the only thing I've done right.
Damn.
And at least I feel good going about that, right? Think about when you come home and you've not made your bed and you walk into your bedroom and you think, and you had a terrible day. I am such a freaking loser. I can't even make my bed. Isn't that what we tell ourselves sometimes? Yeah, but when you walk in and your room looks organized and
you're
your
like,
bed's made,
I feel good. At least something's right.
Exactly.
Especially your sleeping place.
Right. Yeah. And so I do that. I am pretty intentional about that, but it does set my day up. And I find that I am more even-keeled throughout the day. I'm less on edge. I'm not flipping people off as I'm driving down the 5 freeway or 405 freeway. I'm much more chill.
Okay.
About it. When I'm more chill, I'm more creative. When you're on the edge, when you're full of anxiety, creativity is limited.
It's limited. I started a new thing where every day I wake up and I speak out loud 15 things I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for this. I'm grateful for my mom, my dad, and at the end of the 15th one, I'm smiling.
Dude, that's
and
so
I'm like
powerful.
Ready to go, and it's like ready to crush it.
So here's what I do. I'm so glad that you said this. So years ago, I used to carry around my little to-do list. Very old school. I had 7 pieces of paper stapled together, and each piece of paper had different people that reported to me. So I had Melissa's name, I had my former spouse's name, I had our chief operating officer's name, our CFO, all the different departments. And if something came to my mind, I would write it on the to-do list, right? And then here are the things that I need to do. And what I realized I was doing, I was training my brain to continue to write things down. I had it right next to my bed at night. So in the middle of the night, if an idea came to me,
just put it there.
I woke up and wrote it down. And so now doing this all these years, I realized I'm not getting any sleep at night. And really my brain ought to be filing all of this stuff at night. And so I stopped doing that. And so my mentor, the same guy who told me that I'm an egomaniac with an inferiority complex, told me you need to start doing a gratitude journal. He said, each morning when you get up in the morning, do your gratitude journal. Write down like what you're talking about, everything that you're grateful for. And if you have nothing, that you can't think of anything, which should never happen, are you alive? Do you have both eyes? Are your hands working? Do you still have hair on your head?
Yeah,
I write it down. And so what I realized when I was, by the way, then I was watching the news or Full Metal Jacket before I went to bed at night and realized, no wonder I'm so screwed up. I realized I got to stop doing my to-do list that way. I've got to let my brain sleep and recover at night. And so now what I do is I jokingly say, I start my morning routine the night before. Now before I go to bed, that's when I do my my gratitude journal. So studies have shown that we tend to wake up in the mood that we go to bed.
Really?
Right? Yeah. So if you go to bed anxious, right, you're going to be anxious throughout the night and you're going to wake up probably with some anxiety. But if I go to bed feeling
grateful,
motivated. Joyful, motivated, I'm probably going to wake up that way. And so I do my gratitude journal at night. I dim the lights. I'm almost like I have an evening routine. I start to dim the lights, put on some nice music, brush my teeth, wash my face, start thinking about the gratitude stuff, sit down in the chair and just get intentional. Okay, here's all the things that I'm grateful for. And if I'm so tired I can't even do that, at least when I lay down in bed and I feel my body starting to rest, I'm at least listing all the things that I'm grateful for. Yeah, mentally. And I may fall asleep while I'm listing all the grateful things. So gratitude is so powerful. It is like, it's high octane fuel, I think, for your soul.
I think it's when you said the small things, right? Are you alive? I think it's when you realize those is when it becomes powerful. I don't necessarily, I always catch myself, by the way, every day. I don't say I'm grateful for the bigger things. I never tell myself, oh, I'm grateful for the fact that I have friends. I usually tell myself I'm grateful for the fact that I'm alive. I'm grateful for the fact that I can talk.
Yes.
I could walk.
Yeah.
Biggest thing that always hits me, I get to go to work and do what I love to do every single day. Like that by itself is just mind blowing. And if people, and I tell people this all the time, I'm like, guys, listen, don't look at my life. Don't look at your life. Don't look at anyone else's life. Look at yourself. I'm pretty sure you can find something that is so special about yourself that if you were to dig deep, you'd realize, wow, I am really, really, really special. Like I've been given a miracle.
Well, we both use this word at this point, and it changes the dynamics and meaning of that sentence so dramatically. And that is, I get to go to work.
I get to,
Not I have to.
No.
I get to. I'm given an opportunity. I've been blessed with this opportunity to make an impact on the world or my community or my family or my little team, whatever. I get to do that. And if someone I think is feeling stuck, like they are like, oh, I've got to go and I've got to go work it. Pick the name of the company. I have to go do that. Just start changing that word. Change that mindset. There's a thing, fake it till you make it. Sometimes you do. I'm sorry. Sometimes you do have
mentally,
to just, you just got to get, you know? So just try that. Try it for 30 days saying, hey, whenever I say I have to do it, I'm going to switch and say, I get to do it.
It's not necessarily faking it. I agree with you, but it's more so like what you set out to see in front of you will happen. If you wake up in the morning and you're like, I have to go to work, then somehow bad shit's going to happen at work.
So what I say is you find what you're looking for.
Exactly.
I don't care what it is. If you're looking for good,
you're going to find good.
If you go out intentionally looking for, the bunch of idiots I've got to go work with today, guess what? That's all you're going to see. You're going to see a bunch of idiots all day, right?
And then your brain's going to tell you, see, I was right. And then you're just going to go in this
self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Because we're all flawed, right? There's not one person in our organization who's perfect. And I could choose to be nitpicky on all those things, or I can choose to look at the great things and the value that they bring. We almost lost a great team member in our organization because I stopped doing that. You know, there were some things that were just driving me nuts about this person and things about me that was driving this person nutty. And we thought, let's just part ways. And then right at the departure, we said, wait a second, how much of this is my fault? And we both said, well, a lot of it's, you're bringing stuff, I'm bringing stuff. Let's just deal with our own stuff. And thank goodness we were able to salvage the relationship. And now it's better than ever, right? It's more of a collaboration, right?
And that only would have happened because of your high EQ.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
It's exactly right.
I love how this conversation is all kind of tailing back to what we originally started talking about.
Yeah. EQ is powerful. If people don't know what EQ is, I would encourage you. Daniel Goldberg, I think, was the author of that book called Emotional Intelligence, right? And for those who don't know, he started questioning whatever happened to all those people who had really high IQs and they were the valedictorians in high school and they graduated magna cum laude in college. Whatever happened to those people? And after doing a lengthy study, they realized most of them, though, are just living middle of the road, mediocre lives. But the titans of industry, the people who are changing the world, the people who are leading amazing nonprofits and big businesses, they're the people who had high EQs. They knew how to get along with people. They knew how to be problem solvers. They could play well as team members. They were good winners and good losers as well. Those are the people that are really making an impact on the world, not the people who had high IQs. Because when I was younger, I can tell you this, I used to be resentful of the people who were the really good students, thinking, oh, they've got it all together, because I was a bad student, right?
You want to see my report card?
Dude. Several years ago, I found my kindergarten report card, and it was amazing. I was like, shit, I peaked in kindergarten. How sad is that?
It ended there.
Actually, anyway, yeah, I was a very poor student for a bunch of reasons.
Would you agree, though, that I don't think you were poor because I think it was just not, it wasn't fulfilling for you. Because for me, it was just boring. Like, I know if I go to class and I focus, I'll get an A.
Yeah, two things. When I was younger, I still am, but I'm dyslexic, and it was not diagnosed until I went into the military. So most schools back then didn't know how to identify dyslexia. What they thought I was lazy. So most dyslexics, as it turns out, are high performers and have high IQs. Albert Einstein, Winston Churchill, dyslexics. Lots of dyslexics that are out there. Well, 1 in 4 Americans have some form of dyslexia, as it turns out. And so that's number one. They didn't identify that. But number two, I think our education system is built, current education system that hasn't changed much in decades, was built for the industrial age. It was built to create factory workers, people who don't question authority. Right. You don't question authority. You go in because it's safety. I mean, if you don't follow the rules, you're going to lose a hand in the factory. Follow the rules. That's what we were taught.
Isn't there like a quote from one of the Rockefellers? He was kind of like saying, I want a generation of workers, not innovators, or something like that. Yeah. And
I've heard that before. Yeah. I've heard that before, and it's absolutely true. I got a friend, Jessica Eves Matthews, who wrote a book about this, and she does keynote speeches on this topic. So the education system, I think, has been flawed. Now, there are more people who are, more people, when I say people, I mean institutions, that are implementing entrepreneurial programs, and they're changing curriculum to meet the way people learn, because we all learn a little bit differently. Some people are visual learners, some people have to actually be doing stuff. But people like me, I can't sit in a classroom for 6 hours a day, taking notes, reading, and then taking a test.
It doesn't make sense to me either, yeah. I have to have the one-to-one, teach me, show me, apply.
I get more out of this stuff right here.
Yeah, than anything else.
Of course.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think a lot of entrepreneurs fall into that kind of category. And yeah, I found school boring, very boring. It did not keep my attention at all. And so it's one of the things, like with my kids, like if they don't, I'd love them to go to college. I think that education is really important. Plus the college experience of building relationships.
I think that's sweet. I mean, like,
but if they don't want to go, I'm cool with it. You got to serve. You're going to be doing something for a couple of years before you go out into the workforce. But until our education system changes wholesale, I think we're going to be stuck. I think we're not creating as many innovators. I mean, this is one of the reasons why I think there's a lot of innovators who are immigrating, and we're pulling them in from other countries into Silicon Valley and around the world, because people still, we're bringing in people from India and China and all over the place, because they understand there's great opportunity here. Sadly, I think that because we've lived in a pretty safe society for several decades, we have lost the appreciation for what it means to be an American. One of the books I'm writing right now is called Alpha American, and I'm talking about that. What does it really mean to be an American and to be an alpha, not a beta. I have no desire to be number 2. Mm-hmm. I don't. It doesn't mean that by being alpha doesn't mean I'm going to crush everybody around me. And I've got to be a jerk.
No, not at all. It's just it's a standard you put yourself to.
Apex. I want to be at the top, right? And I think that when we change our education system and we can really make a movement out of what we're talking about serving other people, motivation, integrity, and capacity. How about just loving people and building great businesses? That's where the alpha kind of comes in, and really supporting each other. And if we're all working in our strengths, doing great things, if we're all striving for excellence, imagine this: if every person in your organization, Adam, they were striving for excellence in everything that they did, how would your organization be different?
Tip top shape.
Tip top.
I'd feel awesome.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, just how would you feel in your own personal life if you knew that you weren't phoning in your performance with the relationship with your significant other, the relationship with your family and friends, the way you manage your bank account, but you're really shooting for excellence in everything? And the great thing is this can be changed, right? We can change cultures around this. And it doesn't mean that by me winning, you're losing.
No,
life
there's
is not
so much abundance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is not a zero-sum game, but too many people, particularly, crying out loud, we can look at the presidential candidates right now, right? And in the last election too, that it was all about if I'm winning, you're losing. If you're losing, I'm winning. That's not how life works. It's just not.
Not at all, because life just continues with or without you.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So if you're going to be stupid enough to think that if that person right there is killing it, that means there's no space for me. Actually, the way I look at it is, hey man, if you've done it, then the hell I can. Right?
That's the way I look. That's so interesting you say that. Yeah. I think there are a lot of entrepreneurs that have it. Hey, if they can do it, how hard can it be? I can do it.
I can do it too.
Why not me? Right? That's what really got me interested in actually leaving the military originally. Right? I spent a bunch of years in the military, and I remember thinking of some knuckleheads who were running these countries. If they can do it, how hard can it be? Let me see if I can do that. And that got me into the entrepreneurial space, and then into the university. And then when I started seeing some business owners out there and working with some entrepreneurs who were really smart, but they were crappy leaders, and they were low EQ, and they were still having some levels of success. I thought, well, crying out loud, if I take my leadership skills that I know, my high EQ, my ability to build teams, my creative juices, why can't I do it?
Sure.
I think that's one of the crazy things about the American alpha characteristics that we were talking about earlier. It's just kind of and it's what attracts people here, whether you're an immigrant or you've been here for generations. Why not me? I've traveled to now about 45 different countries. Not as many as That's a lot for Americans, but not as there are a lot of people who travel to more, right?
Sure.
But I've traveled to socialist countries. I've traveled to capitalistic countries. I've traveled to a bunch of different countries, right? Most countries don't have that "why not me"
mentality.
Go to Bali, for instance. It's still a caste system there. If your grandfather was a wood carver, you'd lay money your father was a wood carver, and guess what? You're probably going to be a wood carver.
Wow.
There are a lot of countries that are like that. Or they don't see people, think about Zimbabwe, for instance. They don't see a lot of entrepreneurs who are just killing it out there who can inspire them. Right? They live in poverty wages, and that's just the way it's going to be. And there aren't tons of opportunities. This still is the land of opportunity. Even in our worst days, the U.S. is still the land of opportunity.
And you're able to do anything you want out of thin air, especially with technology today.
Well, this is what drives me nuts, though. I think a lot of Americans who have been here for multiple generations, they've never had to work. And so this is why I think there are a lot of immigrants who are coming here that are killing it in the entrepreneur space because they know the opportunities that they've got. That this is I'm going to take advantage of this. So that does scare me a little bit, living here in Orange County. For your viewers who don't know, Orange County is one of the wealthiest counties in all of the U.S.
It's
a lot of affluence and influence, exactly. It's pretty safe, right?
Yeah, you can walk around at 3 a.m.
Exactly, right.
There's nothing happening.
And so I've had to be careful with my kids to say, hey, we are living a blessed life by living here, but this is not reality.
You live in a bubble.
We're living in a bubble. And so I take them out as much as I can to other parts of the world
That's awesome.
and other parts of the country to expose them to it so that they know the blessings that they've got, and hopefully the lessons that they learn there they can bring back to their lives and do great things. But I still remain optimistic, but I want more of us like you and me talking about how great this country
there's
is and
so
the opportunity
much
that's here
in this space, in this economy, with today's tools.
Yes.
You can do anything, anything. And who knew a video gamer one day is going to be a millionaire?
That's right.
Who knew somebody who owns an Instagram account and takes pictures of his cat can be making a six-figure salary?
Love it.
Living life.
Love it.
You know,
I take nothing from it. I think it is beautiful.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's so sweet.
My son obviously had to show me the other day. What was it? Some game that was played a couple weeks ago where this 14-year-old won whatever it was, a couple $100,000.
Yeah, $500,000, something like that. I heard about that. Yep.
Believe me, he was showing me that for sure.
Look, Dad.
I said, good, go do it.
Yeah.
Do it. Awesome. Yeah. So it's a great country. It's a great opportunity to be here. But I just think that the moon and stars are aligning. There's no better time for the entrepreneur class.
I have to ask you.
Social media is really it's really one of the integral. It's not the only ingredient for success. I mean, because I think there's got to be spokes in there, but this is clearly, it's a very, very, very important spoke.
It is. I have to ask you, what has the military taught you that you've taken over to entrepreneurship? I'm sure you've been asked this before, but.
Yeah, like a lot of things. So let's see here. The thing that people talk about all the time, that I think even if you're not in the military, people recognize is that clearly, yes, discipline is really important. The ability to lead and the ability to follow is really important. Now, I didn't spend any time in the conventional military with the exception of basic training, jump school, the basic schools that I went to. The rest of it was spent in special forces, which is unconventional military. And in there, we focus a lot on strengths. So a special forces A team, there's 12 guys on a special forces A team. And they identify what your strengths are, and you work in your strength. You get cross-trained in another strength. But I've taken that, I brought that over to the entrepreneurial space. This is why I do the Colby-A Index and the Clifton Strength Finders, because I want to make sure that people are working in their strengths. When people work in their strengths, their morale goes up, productivity goes up, turnover goes down. Those are all great things in business. I guess if there's one thing, though, that I recognized is that veterans, military veterans, when they put on the uniform, they went into the service. That's what they say. Right? They went into the service. What does that mean? Well, they decided they were going to serve the country. Most people don't know this, but after World War II, for a couple of generations, veterans were starting businesses at a rate 4 times greater than the general population. Get your brain around that, right? The number one indicator of success, according to the Small Business Administration, is veteran status.
I've heard that. I heard that a couple weeks ago. Yeah.
Korn Ferry did a study that showed that veterans outperform their non-veteran counterparts almost 2 times. They're 1.8 times more likely to succeed in business than their non-veteran counterparts.
Yeah, it is interesting.
Right? Why is all of that? Well, when I'm doing my research, what I have kind of drilled it down to is one thing. Yes, leadership. Yes, all the other sense of mission, all that. They're willing to serve. They have a service mentality about them. They're going to serve their team members. They're going to serve their clients.
They work for their employees.
Exactly. Well, here's one of the things.
That's what a leader is. They lead by example.
There it is. So you used a term right now that I try to, I'm on a mission to banish a couple of words in the entrepreneurial space. I think that because words have meaning, right? I get for compliance issues, I get for tax purposes, we have to call the people who work with us employees.
Sure. Yes.
What we call them in our organizations are team members. If I call those folks employees, they're going to show up like employees. When's payday, boss? Thank God it's Friday, kind of thing. It's Monday. That's an employee mentality. But when you call them team members and you say, I expect you to act like a team member, guess how they show up? Like a team member, which means our success or our failure, we're all in it together.
I think what makes a leader like you so great is you get to see the leaders within themselves.
Yes.
And you pull that out.
Well, you have to. I think that's one of the key things. You have to identify potential in people and say, I see this in you, because sometimes we don't see it in ourselves. So number one, I want to change the way people call the folks who work with us, not for us, team members. And number two is we'll let the competition call the people that pay their bills the customers. I don't want to have customers. I want my competitors to have customers. I want clients. Clients are relational. Customers are transactional. Clients stick around. Customers will do this transaction and they're gone and they'll go someplace else. Right? Remember I talked about loyalty earlier?
Yes.
I don't want just loyalty with my team members. I want loyalty with my clients. Right? And so I just want us to start thinking differently about this. And I can tell you in our organization, when people start talking about our guests as clients, we're going to treat them differently. And don't we all want to be treated with a little bit more dignity and respect?
100%.
Right? So I think it's small, it's semantics, but it's the small things that move the needle of change. But you got to do it consistently. It's not the big sweeping things that change the course or trajectory of our lives. It's the small little things done consistently.
The small, consistent, constant
Darren Hardy, who is a former publisher of Success Magazine, has a great book that I've probably given away, and it's an older book now, but I've probably given away, I don't know, easily 300 copies of it, called The Compound Effect. It kind of talks about these small incremental changes that we need to make in our life and our business to make huge changes. So anyway.
Sometimes I do simple things, like for example, diet. Yeah. Simple. Like to me, it's like I've been going eating super clean lately. And oh my God, everything has like changed for me, like immersively. Sure. So it's like, even this, like I love that you said that, because when I have a problem at work, I never look at anybody in my team and say, what did you guys do wrong? I always look at myself. I'm like, what am I doing incorrectly that's causing a flow of energy that's messing everything up? Did
I not communicate effectively? Did I not set the standards appropriately? Here's a little tip for you. Like in our organization, I try to do this oftentimes. If we develop a project, I say, here's what I expect the outcome to be. Now, if I stop there, guess where they're going to perform to?
To that level.
To that level.
Yeah.
So I say, here's what I expect, or better. If my expectation is here and they can get to here, why not encourage them to get to there? But if I say, hey, I want us to make $1 million on this project.
And they made $1 million.
Made $1 million.
Cool, congrats. We did what we're supposed to do.
But that's the minimum standard. Here's what I expect, or better.
Interesting.
Small little things.
I will add that to my vocabulary.
Things. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. Yeah. Well, hey, Larry, it's been an hour.
Has it?
Yeah, it has. Hour and 20 minutes, man.
Hour? I thought we were going for a half hour. Okay.
I love the conversation. This is awesome. We'll probably get another episode going for sure.
Good, let's do it.
We'll do it. So thank you so much for being on the show, Larry. I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah.